Digital Day that is doing very well. I would like to thank all those connected. And now comes the time of success cases, the second series of success cases. We've had one earlier on today, led by Megan, and now it's my turn. I have to introduce a colleague, someone with whom we have worked in Argentina, and I have asked him to present a case, a very specific and concrete solution that we find interesting, that has to do with how when companies want to digitalize their processes or some kind of process, find different scenarios. And when a change of process picks up and has certain speed or pace that the company is not willing to tolerate, it's when we can help. And Daniel, that has an interesting microservice technology, has been able to find that solution that the company needed. And for sure, in organizations that are under compliance, they've been able to comply with all those regulations. Welcome, Daniel Galanti from SIG1, with whom we have worked quite a lot. And he will be presenting a specific success case. And something else, we are talking about the insurance market, where Daniel is very experienced in that regard. Welcome, Daniel. Thank you, Norberto. I will be sharing screen. As you have just said, we work in the insurance industry, and we'll be presenting a case. I mean, what typically happens in insurance companies is that they have legacy centralized systems, and Uriel has been talking about the evolution of the business, and oftentimes the business evolves, and it's quite difficult to drag all that technology that insurance companies that they are regulated companies, when the evolution is more difficult. And the problem that we face is that insurance companies find it very difficult to evolve following the right speed. The business demands the generation of collaborative environments that are hyper-regulated, what makes things more difficult. On the other hand, in these collaborative environments, they want to connect to different infotechs or create collaborative environments with the financial industry, and moreover with the banking system. And therefore, many challenges appear that we've been able to resolve through a web-based API generation. And through those APIs, we extend the arms of the companies to generate new digital businesses without changing the core. That implies a much more costly and larger change for the company. Well, we have been working together in the following manner. It's connected to what you said in the previous panel. There has been a planning process. We defined the needs of the insurance company. We defined the processes that were challenged by this time difference between what the business demanded and the pace of technology update.
And somehow we focused on the commercialization and subscription, which is a very complex aspect of insurance company, where it is easy to market, but whatever is commercialized is a risk for the insurance company that has to go out and provide indemnification. So it's very risky. especially in terms of the digitalization of these products. So the collaboration with Baker Tilly that led to success was to analyze the processes, to detail the process, to document them, and to plan all the implementation, where the development of an API or a set of API, in this case, it is like that, not only calls for the procedural part, but also it covers, among other things, many of the things that were mentioned before that have to do with the cultural transformation, how the company will absorb these processes. And on the other hand, the process is not only to provide a service and leave it on the cloud, but it involves lots of other practices that have to do with security, with compliance, and above all, with the development of secure codes. That's a practice that is transferred from our IT teams to the IT teams of the insurance company. And that implies a key change in the company that has to be accompanied in this process. And Baker Tilly was one of the protagonists in this process of change. So within the case and within somehow what was done, there were two important stages. In the first stage, we focused on the whole infrastructure and the whole ecosystem with which the infrastructure was relating. The demand somehow has to do with having more agile sales processes, collaborative ones, open so that any broker can subscribe to an API in a safe way to generate profits and to incorporate risks to the platform. On the other hand, the idea was to diversify the selling process through an example I will give you, to sell one insurance in an ecosystem that is not so typical, for example, retailer, and to embed in a sales process where a person goes and buy tools to do a work, that also within the context of that demand, the person should be able to take his personal accident certificate, because if he's going to work in a place that is required, he should be able to do that. There is a whole ecosystem and infrastructure that somehow it is interrelated with lots of entities, and particularly as given the fact that insurance companies are regulated in entities, any interaction is subjected to a process that has been thoroughly analyzed, especially from the point of view of security, personal data protection, among other things that have to do with information that is exchanged at this level. That regarding the first stage, where we focus early on. And then there was a second stage for that was pure development. From the technologically, what we did was to connect those processes that were inside the company, which were legacy processes, and we connected them to amplifiable ecosystem on the cloud with everything that implies. There is a full process of cultural change that is big and deep, and fully impacts different areas in terms of the operations and the systems of the insurance companies. Okay, so I will show you an overview of the infrastructure map. Maybe it's too technical, but we took into account among all the changes, the security change, so the responsibilities of a platform were divided between legacy system that we have in S400, we had everything there. Everything lives there. There's no way to separate the information or to mitigate the risk. So the idea, what we did was to divide everything in different private networks. We divided the responsibility. We applied load balances. We divided the responsibility in microservices. So the whole amplification processes, the whole business could be controlled in very small pieces that follow the principle of single responsibility. That is, if we are talking about the configuration of an insurance product, there are microservices that are purely focused on that, on the budgeting, the quoting, the management, and so far and so forth. And on the other hand, something very important in this stage that typically is done, and it's very complex because, once again, these are regulated companies, is the fact that we created hybrid in clouds. That means that data that today resided in databases on premises within the context of the company start to circulate through the cloud. And that, well, what happens is that, of course, every country has different types of regulations in order to be able to protect that data. So, well, of course, we are a regional company, and we adapt to each one of the regulations of each one of the Latin American countries, but it's a full process that we have to address, and this is part of the work that we did in this stage. To give you an example, a concrete example, for example, in Argentina, it's what is very strong is everything in connection with personal data protection. And for example, most of the cloud suppliers have areas that are economically feasible in the US. And for Argentina, the US is an unsecure area, not from the point of view of the security per se of data, but rather the US considers that national security is a priority over people's security. So any person can visualize that data without any problem. So putting on the cloud these types of processes has its own challenges. So they are once again part of the technology offered by the cloud is to have it multi-zone, so you can select where the data will live. That is part of a great challenge that we confronted and we led. And the second stage that has to do with the development aspect, well, of course, that we did a functional analysis of everything that was required. Then also there were great contributions made. We developed a regular process of amplification that I repeat. Not only it's about the creation of a microservice and deploying it on the cloud, but rather implementing a development process that goes from the creation of the services to the infrastructure as code. That means that at any moment, the insurance company will be able to create all that infrastructure that we saw before with a single click in any solution. So that process covers lots of steps that go from the creation of the projects, the creation of the architecture, the testing, and how that testing is done, the definition of how the API will be used through an standard of data exchange, and the implementation of the endpoints with the tests. So that is what this second stage of implementation was all about. That led us to be successful in this digital transformation and modernization that we conducted with the insurance company. So basically, the technical benefits that were obtained, well, of course, that it was an amplification process, so they had the infrastructure as a service. We increased security in the development life cycle based on DevOps. of the platform. The development was more secure, more structured, and of course, uh, the content was created for services. The packet of services offered on the cloud was modernized, and on the other hand, also we created a layer of security and data governance that is also very important, has to do with the access to data based on pyramids, where it is more complex than rather have been something monolithic. You make a request and all the data comes together. So from that point of view, from the technical point of view, these were the benefits. And of course, the number one benefit was seen through the business processes, where somehow we were able to replace that gap between the speed of the business and the speed at which the insurance company could generate new products for the commercialization of them to be at the level of that speed, the speed at which the whole financial industry was circulating with index, insurtechs, and the emergence of new players, technological players in this business. So we were able to adapt and provide services for those players that demand a lot of technology. And of course, there was more certainty regarding the sales resources, and this benefits the client. Many processes were automated, so the costs were cut back significantly, especially something that is very important and actually, amplifying the core of the insurance company led to a situation in which they maximized the number of channels, and they developed an omni-channel strategy where a business that was provided in a single channel now was consumed through a portal of producers, through a mobile app, through in a portal of insured entities, or through adjusters or players in the insurance industry. So from the business point of view, also they maximized the vision through omni-channels in connection with these processes. And also another objective of this insurance company, which was the most important one, was not to be left outside the possibility of provisioning embedded insurance. That is very popular today. The idea is to incorporate different sectors, e-commerce, for example, to be present, for example, to buy a car, and also to include the quote to buy an appliance, and to have the insurance that guarantees the same amount at which I'm buying the article. So to have the product embedded in the purchase, the insurance embedded in the purchase, it was very important to focus on this technological leverage in order to somehow automate that aspect and somehow integrate e-commerce with the retailer and the financial and insurance industry, and also to open up to the selling of other business that have to do with micro insurance that represent big volumes. And without the leverage of technology, it's very complex for that business to be profitable. So from that point of view also, they were able to really launch this business in a faster way, and also to be able to provide that very high volume of information through this method. That is very important. When we talk about this business, we're talking about policies that sell 400,000, 500,000 certificates per month. It's a very high volume. And once again, there the whole cloud design, and the design of this platform on the cloud is the one that gives the technological support to reach the peaks and to escalate on an ongoing basis based on the demands of the consumers.
And lastly, And to conclude, the modernization of these central systems is an extremely strategic change that is being done by every insurance company. Either they change the main core, that is something that we do as a company, or else they streamline what they have. Therefore, the modernization process redefines and reshapes the whole conglomerate within the company as to how they will be rendering services. It is a process and a challenge that every company is facing. There's a long way to go in that regard, and it's an extremely necessary change. Every insurance company, sooner or later, are sort of becoming tech-based companies. Every provision of the market will be done through technology, and doing everything through APIs is a must. It's a must rather than a decision, rather than expression of desire for this market. There's a lot to do ahead and a lot to do together with Baker Tilly.